everyone, and welcome back to Fantasy Fellowship YouTube. My name is Sarah, and I'm very excited because this evening I'm joined by some friends, and we're going to have a chat about some of our favourite recent reads. So I'm joined by Shannon.
Hello.
Erin.
Hiya.
And Kieran.
Hello.
I need to stop swinging on this chair, don't I? Right, so yeah, to start off with, we're going to just talk about some of the books that we've read recently. I say recently, but one of mine I read in like March, but I couldn't miss this opportunity.
It's cheating.
So, Shannon, why don't you kick us off then with
Right.
favourite books?
So,
of the last few
I tried
months?
to stick to the brief being recent, of course. So I went with books from May and June. I'm very much in the camp of new to fantasy, so I'm playing catch up, and also I struggle to remember names of people after I've even shut the book on the same night. So I'm very much a feels kind of person. So book from May, I think, which was my standout. I chose in May because it was the Fantasy Fellowship Battle of the Five Worlds readathon. I chose to read the Folk of Air series. So start with the Cruel Prince, of course. And yeah, I blitzed the whole trilogy in May. Not read anything of Holly Black's before. Very new to obviously the Cruel Prince. Seen it all over Instagram, as I'm sure everyone has. But I had a fun time, and I think it reminds me that sometimes it's always good to go back to some YA. I just think it adds a little bit, especially when you're in a bit of a deep fantasy hole. So yeah, really enjoyed that in May. And then June, I think following on from that similar kind of feeling, of course, read Fourth Wing, which I think the entirety of the rest of the internet probably did. Thoroughly enjoyed it as well. I think it was just what was needed, and it was really cool, I think, actually, to see a lot of the community come together, because everybody was talking about it. Everybody had something to share, how it made them feel, calling out different quotes. It felt like a moment, if that makes sense. And I think even yourself, Sarah, you jumped on and read it, didn't you? And I think
yeah,
if there was anyone that I thought in the group that wouldn't read it, it'd be you, and you did it.
had a great time.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it was just a bit of a moment. Everyone jumped on, so yeah, really happy with that one. And then Lore Olympus number 4. So I'm completely new to mythology, and actually Lore Olympus was my first experience of mythology. Never really did it at school. So certainly when Sarah, you were like, you've got to re-sing a Song of Achilles, and I was like, I'm okay, thanks. Started with Circe, but yeah, that was like my first experience. So I'm very much coming to that knowing nothing about like Hades, Persephone, and all of that. So I'm enjoying that. It's nice to also have a different medium, I think, to read as well. Sometimes, I don't know if you find it that if you've had a hardback heavy month, it's nice to drop to a paperback or even go to a Kindle, switch it up with some audio. So yeah, it's really nice time to time to get that graphic novel input. And then last on my list, I had my very first experience of, sounds like a, doesn't it? First experience of Brandon Sanderson as well last month. So I chose to buddy read this with my husband. We picked up we picked up the Claim the Stars series, so the sci-fi YA. I think it is YA, isn't it?
Very YA.
Very YA. Sanderson series, so starting with Skyward. I actually skipped the novellas. I just jumped straight to Cytonic, which is the last one. Current. I think there are more in the way. And you know what? I think yes, it was a bit young. But there were some really good moments. There's some fantastic, really fun, laugh out loud characters as well with that. Like Mbot is my new favourite. So yeah, really enjoyed that, and it was a fantastic audiobook. So yeah, I love a good audiobook recommendation. So I thought I'd kind of finish it off with that. The audiobook's fantastic. Sophie Aldred, I think, is the name of the narrator. Highly recommend. But yeah, that's kind of I think I've been in a YA era at the moment. I've not read much. Well, actually, I'm still trying to get through Ship of Magic by Rubenhold. So I'll get there. I need it.
That one?
Yeah, I think so. It's been taking me so long to get through it that I'm like, do I like it?
That's
I not?
okay, though, yeah.
Yeah, I think if there's
everyone's just so
anyone,
used to reading quick these days, aren't they?
Yeah, Oh, absolutely. And you kind of feel forced to almost, but
Yeah.
certainly with Hobb, it's like a good wine, a nice dinner that you just need to take slowly to enjoy it the most. And it's nice. Like it's probably one of the only authors that I would give that much time to. Anyone else, I'd be like, if I've not picked this up in a week,
Yeah.
I mustn't like it. Out you go. So yeah, that's me.
You've had a very varied bit of sci-fi, bit of mythology.
Yeah, I've also had a sprinkling of some translated Japanese stuff in there as well. I'm very much,
Nice.
again, as I said, I'm coming new to a lot of fantasy stuff, but I'm new to reading on this volume as well. So yeah, really leaning into that. I'm just trying a bit of everything, to be honest.
I really enjoyed that, the Folk of the Air series. I think I read the trilogy, but is there more now? Or is there one
Yeah,
from Cardan's
yeah,
perspective?
Carden's perspective. Yeah, and I think there's another one as well, but I got the initial series in paperback, so as the hoarder I am, I'm waiting for them to come in paperback so I can get them, so they all match. Yeah, but I think the new ones are from a different perspective or different parts of the universe.
Nice. Oh, I'm glad you've been finding some good ones.
Thank you. I think a lot of the stuff that I have read has been stuff that's already out there, so nothing groundbreaking, apart from Fourth Wing, I don't think, but highly recommend all of them.
Come on then, Erin, let's go.
Okay, so much like Shannon, I'm a bit of a vibes reader, and I also forget important details after books are finished, but this is good because it means I'm probably unlikely to give you all inadvertent spoilers about the books I'm about to talk about. So I also have my fave of May and my fave of June to talk about, and my fave of May, which was the readathon month, was The Final Strife by Saara El-Arifi.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. Now, this was one that, we were really fortunate to have Saara at our online con last year, watched the interview, loved it, thought, I need to read this book. Then heard other people talking about it and they all loved it. But I was like, I don't think this is for me. I think this sounds like some sort of war book. And I don't do those because I don't. But then people kept saying, oh, it's amazing. And then people were starting to read arcs of the Battle Drum and flailing around all over the internet. So I thought, right, okay, no, I need to read this. And also because we've got Saara coming to our in-person event in the Isle of Wight, which I'm super excited for, I thought now is the time I will read it. So I did, and I loved it.
Wow.
So I should have just listened to everybody else in the first place. I should just I pretty much do let everybody else plan my TBR these days, but I should just turn it over entirely. So yeah, I thought I was expecting a kind of a war book, lots of fighting scenes, bad vibes, lots of armies being directed around the place. And these are all things that is absolutely valid to enjoy in a book, but I really don't. But what I actually got from this book, to keep it high level vibes, was really just about the relationships between the main characters, and what they hide from each other, what they show to each other, what they find out about each other in the course of the book, and it just, yeah, the world building as well is really immersive and really amazing, and you don't need to, like some books you need to feel like you need to take notes to keep up with with what's happening in the world. Even though there were some things that were quite unique about this one, it didn't feel hard to keep track of. You just really felt pulled in and super invested really quickly. And yeah, by the end I was just desperate to read the next one. But I haven't yet, but I will. I will.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so it's good. So it was a wonderful surprise. I kind of put it on the readathon TBR because I sometimes use it as a way to clear off ones that I just haven't immediately reached for. And I'm really glad I did, and I should have read it way before then. So thank you to the readathon and for everybody peer pressuring me. So that was my May favourite read. And then in June, I felt like I was participating in my own internet moment, because it's not Fourth Wing this time, not Fourth Wing, it was The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson.
Oh, okay.
So, given that this is the second in the series, there's probably not a huge amount that I can say about it without giving things away. But I don't think it is a secret that the first book, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, finished on a big cliffhanger. Like a serious, like, throw the book across the room cliffhanger. Like, give me the next book. So then I was on a little countdown waiting for this Shadow Cabinet book, and it was just really great to be back in that world. And I mean, it's our world effectively, but seen through this author's eyes, and we got to see some different locations that we hadn't seen before in the previous book, and one of those in particular, it was really magical and amazing and unexpected. You got to see more of the characters that you met in the first book and learn more about them. They're great, so funny. The tone of the first book is great. It's really, like, people always talk about the Spice Girls references and things like that. I think I don't know if it's just my age, but these books feel like they're perfect for me. In this second book, what really struck me was the way that it speaks about motherhood, and about being a woman over 30. Basically, you know, a lot of the you know, the characters are kind of all in that age group, and but they're all very diverse and have different experiences. Not all of them are mothers, but for me as a mother, that was really nice to see that reflected. So it was wonderful. And then it ended with a massive cliffhanger that made you want to throw the book across the room. And apparently Juno Dawson hasn't written the next one yet.
Oh,
so
no.
get on it, Juno, please give the people what they want. There's a novella coming, which is like a super prequel. I think it's going to be about Anne Boleyn, which will be wonderful. Turns out I think she might be a witch, guys. So we're going to find out about that, hopefully not too long away. But in terms of what happens to the characters in this book, I'm just going to have to keep waiting. Can't wait.
I tell you what, you've reminded me of when I first read Her Majesty's Royal Coven as well, and something that stood out to me about that book, it reminded me of Threadneedle by Carrie Thomas. If anyone has read it, it's like urban fantasy, isn't it? And I liked that about this as well, is it felt very urban. But you've hit the nail on the head there about the motherhood stuff. The characters are all a bit older, but they've all got kids of their own, and it's almost like reading your favorite series and then seeing what they get up to like 20 years later, and then experiencing their lives then. Which I think is a brilliant thing. And also it's all different points of view as well. So I think if anyone's up for reading the books, points of view is a good call out. Yeah. Thank you, Erin. You reminded me of good stuff to talk about with that.
I have been meaning to read that series for ages.
Get on it.
I will get on it.
And it's very unapologetic as well, I think, is a good thing in terms of the tone and the messages. It's unapologetic. You like what you like, you don't like what you like, and they're like, got it, go for it.
Amazing. Kieran, I'm surprised you can even find any books to talk about.
I do actually like books, thank you very much, sometimes.
Is he writing them?
World's worst book critic. Hardest book critic, not the worst.
I just have high standards.
That's okay. All. You carry on.
With that. So I can't even remember when I read them actually, but they are sort of quite recent, this year anyway. So the first one is Nettle and Bone.
Ah, okay.
I've seen a lot about this.
Yeah, it's really good actually. By T. Kingfisher, who's actually, I think, under a pseudonym. She's a children's author. And you can kind of tell because, I mean, it's quite short for a fantasy book. It's super short, but that's quite refreshing, I think, sometimes, just to kind of, you know, and not have to plough through a great tome. And it's like also very much like a fairy tale, but it's a very dark kind of retelling of a fairy tale. It's got all the tropes in there, kind of going to the land of fairy and princesses and royal weddings and things like that. But everything's got a really nice dark edge, and the pace is really, really good as well. Obviously, being a children's author, you have to kind of constantly be on the pace. You can tell. So that was a really nice, kind of refreshing, fast-paced, dark fantasy that I enjoyed very much. Thank you.
That's the one with the demon chicken, right? Is there a demon chicken in that?
There's a demon possessed, a chicken possessed by a demon. Yeah.
Wow.
And also,
Just wanted to
there's a
put that
lady.
out there because if Kieran didn't sell it to you with saying it's amazing, it's got a demon chicken in it. Because someone told me that, and I've got it on my TBR now for that reason.
Deli wanted to read it. Was it Deli that was like, yeah, the chickens at Christmas?
It's also got a lady being strangled by a puppet. That's quite
Oh,
dark and
wow.
nice. Yeah, and lots of. And the first, I have to read the first, just the opening line, because it's like one of the best opening lines I've ever read. And it just goes, the trees were full of crows, and the woods were full of madmen. The pit was full of bones, and her hands were full of wires.
Wow. Yeah,
I just picked it up and read that, and that was, yeah. So that's how I recommend that one. That's really good. And then my second one is, it's not a fantasy book. It's actually a historical book. It's The Five.
Oh, no.
By Hallie Rubenhold. The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper. So I'm sure everyone knows the story of Jack the Ripper. And there's been millions of books about him and theories about him, but they all kind of focus on him. And the five women are kind of just consigned to history as prostitutes and unfortunates, streetwalkers. They kind of deserved it. And this book just really reclaims them as individuals. And I have to read quite a lot of history books for research and stuff. The kind of the level of detail that she's gone into researching, she's managed to go back and recreate these women's lives. I mean, and their parents' lives and before it, and it's just absolutely tragic. They all had families, they all had jobs, they all had kind of quite respectable lives, and then one thing and another happened, tragedies, alcoholism, and they just kind of there's no net there to save them. They just fell onto the streets, and then and most of them were actually probably just sleeping on the streets when they were murdered. So most of them weren't actually prostitutes at all.
God.
So this is just really, I mean, it's heartrending, but yeah, it's just kind of really exposes the hypocrisy of Victorian society, especially when all this was going on. The thing that fascinates me about it, all this was happening in Whitechapel, and then just like a few yards away, there were like rich middle class houses and aristocrats kind of swanning around in carriages, and the lives these women had to live is just tragic. But it's well worth the read.
Amazing.
And then my third one is The Shadow Glass by Josh Winning, which I just kind of stumbled across when someone recommended it to me. And this is I don't know how to describe it really. It's if you've ever watched The Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, then this is the book for you. I mean, I grew up with those films and just was absolutely in love with them. And it's kind of based on the main character. He's the son of a puppeteer who is basically Jim Henson. And he was famous in the 80s with this film called The Shadow Glass. And then he kind of faded into obscurity, and he dies, and his son inherits his house, and he goes there, and he goes in the attic, and all the puppets are there from the film. And then they come to life. And then it starts a kind of a battle of good against evil, the evil puppets against the good puppets. But there's just loads of callbacks to the 80s, to all those films. If you grew up and if you're an 80s child, then you'd love this book. It's just great reading through it and spotting all the little references and everything. So that's a really good one as well. Yeah, so that's 3 that I actually liked in the last year. Thank you.
Check you out.
Is that calendar year or 12 months?
Calendar year.
It's good.
Oh, amazing. Right, so I've got 4, but I'll talk about them really quickly. I'm just a brat and I couldn't choose. So my first one, if you haven't heard me mention it already, is In Memoriam by Alice Winn.
Surprise,
I am
surprise.
shocked.
Oh no.
So I read
I
this
feel
in
forced.
Have you got it?
Yeah, you
Got it
forced
next to you?
me.
Oh, amazing. So I got it in February or March. So it was actually one of the books on the it's not really a long list, but that was out for the Waterstones debut prize, which I was a reader for, and they didn't send me this one. It wasn't on my list, and I was fuming because when I heard about it, I knew that it was a bit of me. So then I just bought it anyway, and I just instantly fell in love. So it opens in this really posh boarding school in the English country, and it's World War One, and the boys are getting the like the newspapers and reading like the in memoriam section, and you know, like hearing the names and stuff of the men that died at war, and it all like feels very far away. And that like first section of the book is just so, you're kind of like lured into a false sense of like just something completely different to what it turns into, because when like the two main characters, Elwood and Gaunt, who are best friends, when they do eventually go to the front at different times, like it is just so harrowing. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear. So harrowing, and just like, I love historical fiction. I love wartime historical fiction. I don't really know why. Like, I just love reading about the trenches and stuff. And this was like definitely one of the best that I've ever read. Like, it just felt so, like, all the scenes in there, and like, yeah, the actual war chapters were just horrific, but they just felt so real. And yeah, it's a love story, and it is very, very Song of Achilles. Like, apparently I have a type, which I had no idea about, and it's a gay love story set amongst war. I don't know why I'm like this, but like, it's not just me either. Every single person that's come in the shop that has read it has been like, wow, that was absolutely amazing. And I'm seeing it more on Bookstagram now, and like 5-star reviews. It's definitely like my book of the year, and like one of my all-time favorites. I already can't wait to read it again. And then, so this was one I read recently. You've read this, Shannon, haven't you? Flowers for Algernon?
Yes.
Algernon?
Yeah.
Have you read it, Kieran?
Algernon.
No,
I've read
I've
it.
heard of it. It's
You
a
read it,
classic,
Erin?
isn't it?
I read it at school.
It's a really good audiobook as well, if anyone wants to catch it on that.
So this book has been discussed in the Discord like since the Discord was created. A lot of people have always said that it's like their favorite book. Zan has said it's one of her favorite books, and Zan loves To Hurt. So I always like meant to get to it, but I hated every single like edition of it. I didn't like any of the covers, and I just never got round to it. And I didn't actually know anything that, like, I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know anything about it. And then they've like been reissuing these sci-fi masterworks in these lovely editions. So I picked it up and just started reading it, and then literally couldn't stop. And oh my god, what a character Charlie is. Like, one of the most unforgettable characters I've ever come across. So it's kind of like he is like telling most of the book is him telling it in like journal entries, and he's kind of like very simple, but very like from the start just so pure and kind, and you can't help but like just completely root for him. And he basically is like signing up to this thing for science where they're going to like experiment on him and like operate on his brain and stuff, and it's just the most emotional journey.
Yeah. It's so sad, isn't it? It just shows the, like, the underbelly of what kids can be like. I think kids are awful. There's a bullying, and yeah.
And the way the story is narrated, the way the book is narrated, and like the writing is just so clever, because it's all from Charlie, and like the way he changes without giving spoilers, it's just like very well done. There's that one. And then two more that I'll go through very quickly. This was actually a recommendation from your husband, Shannon, the Ferryman. So I love a bit of like weird sci-fi, especially Blake Crouch, Andy Weir type of things. And then I did see this one in the shop and had picked it up because Andy Weir, Blake Crouch, and Stephen King had all recommended it on the back. It probably would have sat on the shelf, but then Shannon's husband had told her that it was really good, and he also likes those authors as well. So I started reading it, and like, it's such a long, dense book, but I just flew through it, and it's like very mysterious. It's like, have you all seen The Truman Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very like that kind of like idyllic life, and like very, but you can like tell from the beginning it's very weird. And the main character is like the ferryman, and at the end of someone's life he like takes them to the ferry, and it's just like, that's all you kind of know going in, and you're just like, yeah, you just have to go with it and let the mystery unfold around you. But I absolutely loved it, and I thought the ending and the conclusion like really paid off, which it doesn't always with stuff like that. And then a fantasy book, 'cause this is a fantasy. The Will of the Many by James Arlington, which is definitely my like new favorite. Reading this, I was like getting the same feelings that I got reading The Name of the Wind and like Rubenhold in a different kind of way. But yeah, I just loved it. Like I loved just getting completely lost in a new world. I really liked all the characters. There was a magical school. There was like some really well done relationships and a lot of peril and drama. So definitely recommend that one. So there we go. Does anyone have any other books that they wanted to just mention quickly, or what's everyone reading now?
Tomorrow.
Are you?
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Thanks to
Ooh,
you.
Say oh no, but oh yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that. Excellent. Look forward
Very
to hearing your
good.
thoughts.
It's all right so far.
What do you mean it's all right?
Well, I've only just started it, so
Okay.
I like all the computer game, all the references to
Yeah.
80s computer games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very topical. Sarah and I had a message from someone else in the book club earlier today saying, "Oh my God, I'm just finishing it and I need to talk to somebody about it because I am broken."
Yeah.
Oh
So
no.
fingers crossed, Kieran. No, in a good
Oh,
way. In a
no.
good way, I promise.
So
What about
Shannon,
you,
yours-
Erin? Oh, sorry.
go on.
I've got this month as like my next step. Sorry. I'll pause a second so you can edit it out because I've just spilt my entire wine glass on the floor.
Oh no!
I've got a real wood desk, so I'm going to have to clear that up in a second. But yeah, the book I'm kind of next looking forward to is Morgan Is My Name.
Excited
So I actually picked this one up on Audible. It was just a random free one that I listened to, and this is before I read Cersei, and it was likened at the time when I looked at the reviews to Cersei, and having read it now, I get it because it's that woman that is outcast, seen as a bit of a strange person, someone that we're all told we shouldn't like, but you love her, and you love her for all of the reasons that she is just tenacious, like ambitious, just wants to go out there and get it and just be herself. And I think that is absolutely it. And it says it in its title, really, like Morgan Is My Name. It is all about her identity and just living and breathing that no matter what people say to her. So yeah, that's kind of like my next one.
Excellent.
I am currently in the middle. It's been a long slog so far already. I am reading the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass tandem read, which is where, for those of you who are unfamiliar, there are two books in the series that kind of happen across the same time period. And one of the books follows one set of characters and one of the books follows another set of characters. And I was told by people that I trust that the way to experience these books was to do this thing where there's a list of chapters and you put the tabs in your book and you switch between the two books so that you read it as one ginormous long book. And I mean, it's quite fun because you're like, oh, time to switch, and you put your book down, you pick up the other one, and that bit's fun. But it is those two are big books, and it is the longest book in the known universe when you're doing it like this. You put them on top of each other, they're huge. So I'm not 100% convinced so far on doing this as a tandem read. But I'm told that when it comes to the ending, it will all pay off. However, I must be about 55-60% through the entire tandem, and yeah, there's a lot to keep track of, and you're like, who's where, what's happening here, so yes. So the tandem read, we'll see what the outcome is, but I'm looking forward to finishing as well, because then I think I've only got one more book left in the series, so it'll be interesting to see what happens next. That's what I'm reading just now.
I look forward to hearing how it goes. I'm reading. I'm actually just playing Final Fantasy for every spare moment I get, but I am reading Hunger of the Gods, which is the second
cool.
Shadow of the Gods, which I'm really enjoying. I think I'm like 200 pages in. And it's like literally from the first page, just full throttle. And Orca is amazing. What more can I say? Like, she's just an absolute badass. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that one. Oh, well, thanks, guys. Thank you for chatting with me this evening and
Thank you.
putting more books on my TBR. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And don't forget, if you would like to join us in our community Discord, we will have the link down below. You can check us out on Instagram. We are at fantasy_fellowship. Twitter, we are at fanfellowship. We also have a website, www.fantasy-fellowship.co.uk. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like and keep up to date with more Fantasy Fellowship videos. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.